Longo, has offered a revealing breakdown of Cory Sandhagen as an opponent just 1 week out from UFC 320. This highly anticipated card features 2 title fights, with the co-main event pitting Sandhagen against reigning champion Dvalishvili. Tensions are rising fast. Sandhagen recently posted a bold statement on Instagram, declaring his intention to leave the arena with the belt. But Dvalishvili has shown no sign of intimidation, instead doubling down on claims that he is prepared to stand and trade with Sandhagen in the center of the octagon. At first, many fans thought Dvalishvili was bluffing. Why would one of the sport's most relentless wrestlers abandon the very style that made him champion? Yet the story took an interesting turn when his longtime coach Ray Longo hinted that the Georgian star has been evolving beyond his wrestling roots. Longo revealed that Dvalishvili has been sharpening his striking, improving his overall skill set, and even developing the kind of knockout power that could potentially stop Sandhagen. This raises a compelling question heading into fight night. Will Dvalishvili stick to his tried and true pressure wrestling, or is he genuinely planning to showcase a striking-heavy approach? Longo has made it clear that this camp has produced a very different version of Dvalishvili, one that is confident enough to test his hands against one of the division's slickest strikers. If that happens, Sandhagen must prepare for a champion unlike any he has faced before. Longo, who has trained multiple UFC champions, stressed that Sandhagen remains a dangerous opponent whose skill set cannot be underestimated. "I've always been a big Sandhagen fan," Longo said. "I like his attitude and his approach. This is a huge opportunity for him, a Herculean challenge, and he's a talented fighter. You can't go to sleep on a guy like Cory Sandhagen. He's got one chance to stop a freight train in front of him." But that's the kind of challenge great fighters live for. Sandhagen's path to victory likely rests in his ability to keep the fight standing, control the distance, and disrupt Dvalishvili's forward pressure. Known for his creative striking and unorthodox angles, Sandhagen has the tools to make life difficult for any opponent. Yet Dvalishvili's volume, cardio, and relentless pressure have overwhelmed elite fighters before, making this stylistic clash a compelling spectacle. As UFC 320 approaches, the narrative centers on evolution versus experience. Can Dvalishvili's new weapons in the stand-up game surprise Sandhagen? Or will Sandhagen capitalize on any deviation from the champion's dominant wrestling style? Fans and analysts alike are eager to see whether this fight will unfold as a high-paced grappling clinic or a striking showcase between two of the most dynamic athletes in the bantamweight division. One thing is certain. Ray Longo's confidence suggests that Merab Dvalishvili is arriving at UFC 320 as a more complete and dangerous fighter than ever before. Alex Pereira has opened up about his first fight with Magomed Ankalaev at UFC 313. Revealing details that shed new light on one of the most talked-about bouts of recent years. According to the Brazilian star, he was operating at only about 40% of his capabilities that night. Pereira explained that the lead-up to the fight was far from ideal, saying he was surprised he even made it to the octagon given the difficulties he faced during training camp. "I'm not happy with the loss," he reflected, "but considering everything that was going on, I'm actually proud I was able to perform the way I did." That fight was already surrounded by controversy, and Ankalaev himself had raised issues in the aftermath. He claimed during the bout that Pereira felt unusually slippery, telling his corner between rounds that it affected the grappling exchanges. While Ankalaev stopped short of accusing Pereira of wrongdoing, he made it clear he believed something was off. Despite those complaints, the statistics from the fight tell a different story. Ankalaev was unable to take Pereira down even once, while Pereira scored an unofficial takedown of his own at the end of a round. Pereira's candid comments provide crucial context for how he views that night. He emphasized that he is not offering excuses but rather explaining the reality of the circumstances. "When I think about everything I was dealing with, it makes me even happier that I was able to fight at all," he said. "I know my potential, and under normal conditions I can show a lot more." When asked to quantify his performance, Pereira didn't hesitate. "Honestly, I was about 40% on that night," he admitted. "Even if I'm only 50% next time, that 10% increase will make such a huge difference." This level of transparency from Pereira has only heightened the anticipation for his upcoming rematch with Ankalaev at UFC 320. Now, with a full camp and no reported setbacks, the reigning light heavyweight champion is eager to silence critics and prove his dominance in the division. Ankalaev, meanwhile, comes into the fight hungry to avenge what he considers an unfinished chapter and to establish himself as the rightful king at 205 pounds. The stakes couldn't be higher. For Pereira, a decisive victory would cement his reputation as one of the most dangerous and adaptable fighters in the UFC. For Ankalaev, a win would validate his claims and potentially start a new era in the light heavyweight division. Both men know that the outcome of this fight could reshape the entire landscape of the division. With the rematch just around the corner, fans are left wondering which version of Alex Pereira will show up this time. Was his 40% performance enough to keep the fight competitive, or will a healthier, more prepared Pereira finally showcase the full scope of his striking power and championship pedigree against Ankalaev's grinding style? MMA legend Wanderlei Silva's highly anticipated return to combat sports ended in shocking and chaotic fashion at Spaten Fight Night 2. Known worldwide as the Axe Murderer for his ferocious fighting style, Silva stepped back into the ring to face former two-time world boxing champion Acelino Freitas. Despite Silva holding a reported 44-pound weight advantage, the night took an unexpected turn that stunned fans and media alike. Silva entered the bout aggressively, but controversy quickly emerged when he was docked 2 points for repeated headbutts. The tension in the arena rose as the referee issued warnings before ultimately disqualifying Silva midway through the 4th round. What was supposed to be a nostalgic showcase of Silva's fighting spirit instead spiraled into one of the most dramatic scenes of his storied career. After the disqualification, chaos erupted. Members of both fighters' teams stormed the ring, and a full-scale brawl broke out. Punches were exchanged from every angle, and the melee rapidly spiraled out of control. In the midst of the fray, Silva was struck with a massive hook from an unidentified individual, reportedly a man dressed in a tuxedo, and was knocked out cold on the canvas. The surreal scene left the crowd and commentators stunned as security personnel scrambled to restore order. Silva was immediately attended to by medical staff before being rushed to Salwa Hospital in Sao Paulo for evaluation. His manager later issued a reassuring statement confirming that Silva was conscious by the time he was placed on a stretcher and transported by ambulance. The hospitalization, they emphasized, was a precautionary measure. While fans were relieved to hear he had regained consciousness, images and reports of the knockout left the MMA community horrified. The incident turned what should have been a celebratory return for Silva into a global talking point. Social media erupted with footage and reactions, with many lamenting the breakdown of security and criticizing the circumstances that allowed the brawl to unfold. Veteran analyst Kale Sonnen even remarked that Silva was knocked out by a man wearing a tuxedo, a detail that only added to the bizarre nature of the event. This shocking scene underscores the unpredictable nature of crossover fights and post-fight confrontations. While Silva's combat career has always been synonymous with intensity, this episode was different. Instead of demonstrating his legendary ferocity inside the ring, Silva became the victim of an unprecedented and dangerous post-fight incident that overshadowed the bout itself. Fans and fighters alike are now calling for tighter security and stricter regulations at crossover events to ensure fighters' safety both during and after competition. For Wanderlei Silva, the incident will undoubtedly go down as one of the most chaotic moments of his career. An evening that began as a high-profile comeback but ended in disqualification, a post-fight brawl, and an unexpected knockout that no one saw coming. John Jones couldn't resist throwing a jab at former rival Dominic Reyes following Reyes' devastating knockout loss to Carlos Ulberg at UFC Perth. Once a top contender at light heavyweight, Reyes had been hoping to reignite his career and climb back toward title contention. Instead, Ulberg delivered a performance that not only derailed Reyes' comeback but also signaled a major shift in the division's hierarchy. On Saturday night, Ulberg unleashed a clinical and brutal display of striking, knocking Reyes out in dominant fashion. The finish left no doubt that Ulberg is emerging as a serious force at 205 pounds, and fans are already speculating about a future title shot for the surging contender. For Reyes, however, the loss represents another crushing setback in a career that once seemed destined for championship gold. Almost immediately after the fight, Jon Jones joined the UFC's live post-fight press conference on Instagram, where he delivered a subtle but cutting comment. Did Dominic win again? Jones asked, a pointed and ironic question aimed at the man who has repeatedly referenced their 2020 clash. That fight remains one of Reyes' career highlights, as he pushed Jones to the brink in a razor-close decision, but Jones' comment reminded fans of how far Reyes has fallen since then. The remark quickly went viral, drawing laughs and groans in equal measure from the MMA community. The jab was classic Jon Jones, understated but devastating. For years, Reyes has spoken about the controversial decision in their fight, claiming he did enough to beat Jones and deserved the belt. Jones' timing made the mockery sting even more, coming just moments after Reyes was left unconscious in the Octagon. Some fans viewed it as a savage but fair piece of trash talk, while others criticized Jones for mocking a fighter at such a low point. Meanwhile, the spotlight has shifted squarely to Carlos Ulberg. The New Zealand native's victory over Reyes may have punched his ticket to the top of the division. While no official announcements have been made, Ulberg has publicly stated he's ready to serve as a backup fighter for next week's title bout. He has already begun maintaining his weight and staying in fight-ready condition, hoping the UFC calls on him if an opening appears. Ulberg's emergence couldn't come at a more interesting time, with Jiří Procházka and Khalil Rountree already booked to fight, and both having previously fallen short in their title bids. Ulberg represents a fresh contender with undeniable momentum. A spectacular finish over a former title challenger like Reyes has put him in the conversation for a potential title shot sooner rather than later. For Dominic Reyes, this latest defeat raises serious questions about his future in the UFC. Once hailed as the man to dethrone Jon Jones, he has now suffered multiple knockout losses and may have reached the end of his UFC run. For Carlos Ulberg, however, UFC Perth marked the night he became a legitimate threat to the division's elite, and perhaps the next big star at light heavyweight. Tom Aspinall has given fans an inside look at his conditioning ahead of his upcoming title defense against Ciryl Gane at UFC 321. With over 3 weeks still to go before fight night, the reigning heavyweight champion appears to be in exceptional shape and is already sending a clear message to the division. He's ready. Recently, Aspinall shared the results of his latest InBody scan report, a detailed breakdown of his body composition and metabolic health. The numbers impressed both fans and analysts. According to the scan, Aspinall currently weighs 115.7 kilograms, 255 pounds, with a remarkable 59 kilograms, 130 pounds, of lean muscle mass. Even more striking is his low body fat percentage, which sits at just 11.2%. These figures showcase the rare combination of power, speed, and conditioning that has become Aspinall's trademark. Red Corner MMA, which highlighted the report, noted that Aspinall's InBody score came in at an astonishing 112 out of 100. While the number itself is more symbolic than official, it indicates a near-perfect balance of strength, muscle, and cardiovascular conditioning for an elite athlete at his weight class. Aspinall's basal metabolic rate, the number of calories his body burns at rest, was also revealed to be close to 2,600 calories per day, underscoring his high-level metabolism and capacity to sustain intense training sessions. This rare glimpse into the heavyweight champion's preparation offers more than just impressive statistics. It underscores the meticulous planning behind Aspinall's rise to the top. Known for his speed and technical precision in a division often dominated by raw power, Aspinall has built his success on a foundation of science-backed training, nutrition, and recovery. By releasing these figures, he not only demonstrates transparency but also signals confidence ahead of what could be one of the biggest fights of his career. The timing is also notable. With Ciryl Gane, one of the most technical and athletic heavyweights in the UFC, standing across the Octagon at UFC 321. This fight represents a clash of two modern-era big men who rely as much on agility and tactics as on brute force. Fans have begun speculating whether Gane will release similar health or performance data, though he has not done so yet. Aspinall's decision to publicize his stats may be an early psychological play, letting his opponent, and the public, know just how well prepared he is. For Aspinall, this fight is about more than just defending his belt. It's a chance to solidify his status as the most complete heavyweight in the sport. By revealing his health and conditioning metrics, He's offering a glimpse at the scientific and disciplined approach that fuels his dominance. Whether those numbers translate into another win inside the Octagon will soon be determined, but one thing is already clear. Tom Aspinall is stepping into UFC 321 at the peak of his physical powers, ready to showcase why he is the division's reigning champion.